Welcome, everyone, to Are You Expedition Curious? It's our first webinar of 2026. We are excited to have you with us today. We're talking about one of our favorite tour styles, the expedition tour style. And my name is Carol. I lead marketing here at ExperiencePlus. I am joined by co-owner Mariana Price, Andrea Garreffa, who was a longtime tour leader, still tour leads, but is our tour leader manager based in Bologna, Italy, and Sonia Guillemette, who is a tour leader. She's been with us for, I think, you're going on 4 years, Sonia. And both of these tour leaders have experience running expeditions, so we're looking forward to hearing more from them in just a bit. But I wanted to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today. Emmy is going to share with you a little bit more about who we are as a company, the different tour styles that we provide, and then she's going to pass it on to Sonia, who's going to talk with you about why even go on an expedition, what it is, and is it right for you. Andrea will then step in with some information on how does this tour style differ from others, some tales from the road, and then some insights on how to best prepare. And we have a couple of ExperiencePlus travelers who've been on many expeditions with us, and they're here to give us their personal insight. Tim and Susan Canny will be talking with them towards the end. And lastly, Mariana will be giving us a rundown of our 2026 expedition tour, Baltic to Adriatic. Of course, we'll save some time for Q&A, but you can always drop any questions you have along the way into the chat. I'll be keeping track of those, and we'll do our best to get your questions answered. And with that, Emmy, go ahead and take over and
Thank you.
enjoy.
I will do that. I apologize in advance for my voice, but hopefully it will hold up. I actually feel fine, but I am on the tail end, unfortunately, of that crud that was going around here in, I think, in Colorado, at least recently in the past few weeks over the holidays. So yes, welcome. We're excited to have you all here. Some of you, I think, from what we understood, about half the people who had registered maybe hadn't traveled with ExperiencePlus before, and so I'm excited to give you a tiny update on and rundown on who we are. We are a family-owned business. My parents started the company. They did their first bike ride in 1972. With clients. They actually did their first bike ride that then became the original Bike Across Italy for them in 1969, I believe. But in 1972, they took 25 intrepid cyclists from Pisa to my mother's hometown in Forlì, Italy. My mother's Italian. Our whole family is dual citizens. Fast forward 50 plus years, and my sister and I now have been running the company since 2008. We grew up in it. We grew up guiding in Spain and in France and in Italy. My sister Monica runs our office in Italy, which is our European headquarters under an operations that is based in Italy. And here in Fort Collins, Colorado, where I am today, we run the US-based office, which communicates and talks and sells all of our trips throughout the world. We are in about 20 plus countries, and every year we run about 170 different departures. So we love what we do. We love getting people out on tour. And today we are excited to talk about one particular tour styles. Before I go there, just to give you an overview of our portfolio of tours, we have, I think this is, yes, 5 tour styles. Our classic tour style, per the name, comes from what most of the original trips that we created in the past 40 years or so, or 35 years, were, which is our classic tours are multi-day, 10 to 14-day trips, and they tend to stay in one region. Some of them cross a couple of countries, but it's they move every day or every few days. We have multiple night stays on some trips by bike, and they are throughout the world, in Europe and in Chile and Argentina. We have our bike and boat tours, which is pretty much a classic tour, but where you're sleeping on a boat most of the time. And we have our newly launched Gravel Explorer tours. We originally launched them in 2020, but we all know how that went. So really, it really kicked off closer to 2022. So it's one of our newest tour styles. And that tour is a tour that is mostly on gravel roads per the name. And we also have some shorter itineraries generally with a few less inclusions. And then our self-guided tours that we have actually been running for many years in various ways made it into the ExperiencePlus portfolio just last year was our first year that we added it to our website. They are run in partnership with our Italian office who runs other self-guided tours. And those trips are, as the name suggests, without guides and without tour leaders with you every day. Instead, we book the hotels, we give you the routes, and we give you the bike. And most of those right now on the ExperiencePlus website are in Italy because self-guided tours, you have to be very localized to run them. And we obviously have our local office in Italy, so we know the quality of that operation. And we really feel right now that that's the best. That's why we have a limited set of options on the self-guided tours on our website at this moment. One thing to note that our brand promise or the promise at EP is that for all of our styles, including the expedition, our goal is for you to be able to connect. That's our mission with people and places. We do our best to make sure that everything is taken care of. And we believe strongly in the power of the bike, that you can ride at your own pace, that it is as much as possible an independent vehicle. And we kind of design our trips in that way. So that's a summary of our other forest tour styles. But today we are talking about our expedition tours. So our expedition tour style started in 2006. That was when my father was running the company, Rick. Many of you who have traveled with us know him probably at some point have met him. And he's a geographer. And he's always said that, starting this company was applied geography, because really, if you look at a map, you can dream about how you bike from one point A to point B. And so, in fact, he had been dreaming in 2004 and 2005 and staring at his map of Europe. And he thought, I wonder what it would take to pedal from St. Petersburg to Istanbul. And that question led him to develop a trip that we then labeled an expedition tour style. And the concept was, we are going cross continents. We are traveling longer days. We are exploring. They're kind of these big epic tours. In the earlier days, they were also had, and this is sometimes still true, that it's possible that we haven't pedaled every single kilometer, because if you need somebody to review all 2,000 kilometers or more, it actually, or it does, increase cost. And so we were trying to manage the costs back in 2005 and 6 and work with local operators and local guides to give us information. So they maybe have reviewed all of it, and so that was the beginning of our expedition style. So we're excited. This is our 20th anniversary. Expeditions were and are still a big effort to create and to put forward. And so we tend to only do 1 or 2 a year. We also tend to make our own lives harder by coming up with new trips. we do recycle them sometimes with learnings from past departures, and very popular trips we rerun. And in fact, the St. Petersburg to Istanbul tour, we ran a number of times. We ran it in different stages, similar to this year's actually in 2026. It, I think, had at least 3 stages, maybe even 4. I can't remember. And it was an incredible adventure. We brought over 40 or 50 or maybe even 60 people on that route. At one point, we stopped coming out of St. Petersburg. The visa and the effort to get into Russia was not small. And so we switched to running it from Tallinn in Estonia. So we'll talk more about the 2026 expedition that is not a replica, but in the same region a little bit later. Before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit. Well, I'm actually going to pass it off. Let me see. This was what I just said. The expedition tour is transcontinental, often staged. It is supported, just a piece of note. It is definitely supported. We have a van on the route because there are longer days. You may not see the van. Like as much as you might on a classic tour. but it is a supported trip with van that is following you, or at least, you know, carrying your luggage, and you generally see it once, maybe twice a day. Andrea and Sonia can talk a little bit more about that. So at this point, I'm actually going to pass it off to Sonia, and then after that, Andrea. A quick word of introduction. Sonia and Andrea are two of our extraordinary tour leaders. We are lucky to have an incredible group of tour leaders who work with us. Sonia is originally from Quebec, but she left the world in 1996 to explore, and she landed and has been in France for a number of years. She's been working with us since 2022, and since then she has done quite a few trips. She has a full slate most years, and she has led at least 3, or if not 4 expeditions, I believe, in those years, maybe just 3. But so I'm excited for her to give a little bit of insight on her perspective, because we actually find that the folks on the ground sometimes are the best at explaining what it's like out there. And then after her, Andrea will talk a little bit more. Andrea has been with us since 2013. I couldn't even count the number of tours he did. The list was so long, I had to export it into an Excel sheet. But he has also done a large number of expeditions for us. And as Carol said, he is our tour leader manager now. And so we're excited to have both of them talk a little bit more. So I'll let you guys take control.
So, hi everyone. It's nice to see so many people. All right. So, why take an expedition? Well, today my goal is not to convince you to join an expedition. It's more to help you understand what an expedition really is from the ground and help you decide whether this tour is right for you or not. So I'll focus on 2 things: why people choose expeditions and how to know if this is the right fit for you. All right. An expedition is more than a bike tour. It's a journey. It's long distance, point-to-point rides. You don't loop back unless you're on a day off, and then because we do take rides on days off. But you move forward day after day across regions, sometimes across mountains and across entire countries. One of the strongest reasons people choose expeditions is scale, because you don't just visit a place, you cross it. So you see landscapes change gradually, valleys turn into mountains, coastlines turn into plains, and sometimes even languages and cultures change along the way. And it happens a lot. So that's when you start to understand geography with your legs. Another big reason is accomplishment. Expeditions involve long days, consecutive riding, sustained effort. And that's exactly where the sense of achievement comes from. At the end of an expedition, I've never heard, wow, that was so easy. But mostly people will say, I didn't know I could do this. And that confidence often stays with the clients long after the tour ends. Expeditions are also the place where you create, friends, where you create friendship, create very strong group dynamics. You're riding with a small group of motivated cyclists that share your passion for cycling, but you also share effort, fatigue, encouragement, success. And when people go through a physical journey together like that, obviously bonds form very quickly. And by the end of the tour, the group feels like a team or a family even. And some people create lasting friendships and manage to do more tours together afterwards. There's also something very powerful about the simplicity and the freedom that you get on an expedition, because you have one main goal every day: ride to the next point. You eat, you ride, you recover, you sleep, and repeat. We take care of the rest. So life becomes very simple. And when life is simple, you notice more: the road, the places you visit, yourself. And that's when the joy kicks in. And that's why people choose expeditions. not for comfort, but for the meaning behind it. So now let's talk honestly about whether this tour style is right for you or not. Expeditions are deeply rewarding, but they're also the most demanding tours we offer in terms of distance, elevation, and duration. And that's why it's very important to choose the right tour style for you. So how do you know if an expedition is right for you? First, you genuinely enjoy long days on the bike, not just tolerating them, but finding some satisfaction in spending several hours riding. Because we do have distances in, kilometers. I don't know, I didn't think of the miles, but we can have days that are, 100 kilometers or sometimes even 120 kilometers. So you need to appreciate being on the bike. If you're comfortable with sustained effort, because expeditions are not just about short bursts, they're about steady energy day after day. If you like point-to-point journeys, that's another good sign that you could be ready for an expedition. There's something very motivating about moving forward, not looping back, and seeing the map unfold in front of you. Also, if you like structure and routine, because we take care of all the other aspects of the adventure, and like I said previously, it's we follow a simple rhythm: ride, eat, recover, sleep, and repeat. So many riders actually find that very reassuring. We do also have fun and, of course, have great dinners together and stuff like that. Also, if you're motivated by challenge and achievement, not competition, but if you enjoy the quiet satisfaction of completing something demanding. Also, if you're open to a transformative experience, something that changes your perspective a little, not just your photo album. And one last point that's often underestimated, if you're adaptable, because weather changes and we still ride when it rains and when the wind is strong. So if, you need to, the weather changes, the energy level change, plans sometimes have to adjust. So being flexible and open-minded makes a huge difference on expedition. On the other hand, it's possible that expeditions are not right for you. If you prefer short or very flexible days, you might prefer a classic tour. If you want frequent sightseeing stops, we do stop and do sightseeing, of course. You have to manage your time to be able to do all the distance, and if you want to stop and do some sightseeing and take pictures, but you do have time, of course, to stop for coffee, to have lunch, etc. So, but it's not the main focus. Also, if you want culture to be the main focus, you will get culture, but you'll go through faster and you'll visit different countries and different cities more. You'll see them, you go through, but you're not going to stop and visit all the cultural stuff that is to offer in each city. If you're uncomfortable with physical challenges, and if you don't enjoy riding day after day, and if you need days off here and there. But that's okay. If expeditions are not right for you, like Maria Elena said, we have plenty of other tours to offer. One very common misconception that we hear is I'm not strong enough or I'm not fast enough. In reality, most difficulties we see come from pacing errors or a lack of preparation. If you try to go too fast or if you go too slow and then you see that time is running out, but not lack of ability. I mean, if you sign up for an expedition, you're able to do it. You just need to be prepared for what's to come. So you don't need to be the fastest rider, but you need consistency, mindset, and realistic training. All that matters far more than being fast or strong. But you do need to enjoy the idea of writing again tomorrow and the day after. So to sum up, if the idea of an expedition excites you and maybe intimidates you a little bit, that's usually a good sign. Expeditions are not about proving anything to others. They're about discovering what you're capable of when you commit to a journey. All right. Thank you for listening. Now to Andrea.
Thank you, Sonia, and thank you both Carol and Maria Elena for organizing this webinar. Thank you all for joining, and I would like to see you all and send you a warm hello to all of you. I don't know if we've traveled together over the years. I've seen a few names here and there, like Steve and Sally, and Kevin and Kay, that I would like to greet. But let's keep going with this presentation. As Sonia just said, we do have a variety of tour styles, like also Maria Elena mentioned at the beginning. How do they compare? Let's say that expeditions are most similar to our classic tours, but have some distinct differences that are spelled out on our tour style comparison page that is available on our website, which you can link to with this QR code that you should see on your screen. The most notable differences have already been mentioned, but just to clarify one more time, are the tour length overall and the difficulty of the days, the daily mileage, elevation gain, and how much cultural experiences are part of the core tour design. We could get very much into fine details like how much van support expect every day, what can we expect from meals. I can mention quickly that van support is there, but with the days being so long, the group may get scattered along the way a little bit. So it can become more challenging for tour leaders to provide the support you're used to on classic tours throughout the day, but it's still there. But we all get in expedition mode, lowering or changing a little bit the expectations on where and when to find the van. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to ask, to write them down in the chat. And I mentioned the meals. I'll get there in a few minutes. So let's move on. I would like to share with you some stories from the road. What you're looking at here is a map that helps us get a better idea of what a long day may be and feel like. This is from an expedition I did, I led in 2016 from Venice all the way down to Olympia in Greece. One of the most beautiful trips I've ever done, both for work and for personal leisure riding. It was September 21st to 2016, and we were in Albania, riding from Shkodër to Darde. We started very early in the morning at 5:30 a.m. with a 2.5 hours transfer to get on our ferry ride that was scheduled. Then we had a 3-hour ferry ride and cruise in this beautiful gorge that is considered one of the most spectacular ferry rides in Europe. And I personally will never forget that early alarm, the bus transfer, the sunrise, the bike ride under pouring rain, but especially the ferries. And if I mention this, is for a reason that you'll understand in the next picture. Here, some of the ferries on the river that we were on, called Drin, were buses cut in half and welded to the hull of the boat. It was totally worth the early alarm, the long day, the rain, the mixed terrain with also some unpaved sections. And the beauty of expeditions, from my perspective, is that you get to see those special places that are really much off the beaten path. I've never seen a bus cut in half anywhere else I've traveled to, and I'm glad I have that memory with me because of that 5:30 a.m. Bus in the morning, and then all the challenges we went through that day. What else? Here you get an overview of that expedition I mentioned from Venice to Olympia. And this gives you an idea of how long the overall tour was, not only the single day. It took us 1,400 miles. We gained 113,000 feet of elevation gain. We covered that distance in 27 days, and we crossed 8 countries. Going back to the dream of Rick Price, the founder of ExperiencePlus, and Marianina's dad, it really goes back to that dream of looking at a map and saying, okay, what can I do with the power of my own legs to get from point A to point B? And you do feel the geography in your legs. And this is part of the reason why I started traveling by bike myself, and being able to do it as a job. I still feel it as a real privilege. Moving on, they usually recommend to travel light, right? The picture I decided I wanted to share with you as a story from the road is this one. This is George, that was with us in that expedition, and a friend of George hid a brick in George's rear rack bicycle bag. He rode all day up hard hills without knowing, carrying that brick. When he found that brick, he didn't stop, but he carried it for the whole tour. And eventually, when we got to Olympia in Greece, we all signed that brick. And now it's a proud trophy at his home in Australia. So all this just to say that although it may feel like a daily challenge, and you may start thinking, I'm not going to make it, there is always going to be people around you, a team ready to support you. Let it be the tour leaders or the other riders joining the trip. Keep in mind also that the difficulty of days varies. It's always a good idea, let's say an insider tip, to plan ahead. So my recommendation would be to read the profiles and the distances a few days ahead and manage your energy level so that you can pace yourself. Sonia focused on the importance of pacing, and I would stress and underline that once more. And remember that this is an adventure. The unpredictable will happen. So be prepared for it, embrace it, and enjoy the beauty of it. The 2 pictures here, just to give you an idea of a morning when we were climbing out the Bay of Kotor. It started as a foggy, rainy day. And at the top of the climb, a beautiful rainbow came out. That allowed us to take this nice picture. I did mention meals on expeditions, and this is where I get a little bit more in detail about it. Because we cover so long distances and we go to remote places, we get the privilege of trying different local specialties and local cuisines. But experience told us that meeting people's dietary needs is not always easy. We can be, and we are, prepared in the van, carrying extra supplies and food that you may need because of dietary needs or preferences you expressed while joining the tour, while applying to join for the tour. But we also encourage you to bring your own supplies and be ready to face, let's say, scenarios where we not all the food we're used to is available. What you see here in the picture, for example, are cevapcivic, and they are a traditional Balkan dish made of small grilled minced meat sausages, usually a mix of beef and lamb, sometimes pork. And in the Balkans, they are so common that you see them every day. And in remote areas, it was hard to find convincing alternatives, no matter how hard we try. So this is just an insider tip on how to come prepared to expeditions meal-wise. Talking about preparation in general, how do you want to prepare? All you need is a little bit of time that we're able to quantify. 12 weeks. All you need are 12 weeks, 3 months of dedication and training and commitment to a bike trip that basically you will remember forever. And at ExperiencePlus, we give you free access to a training program designed for us by this guy whose name is Joe Friel. What you need to do, you need to scan this QR code that takes you to a dedicated page on our website. And I'll show you a picture of what one of his plans look like. Just for you to know, this Joe Friel is a co-founder of Training Peaks, for those who have heard of it. He's the author of Training Bible series. He has 40 years of coaching and sports science expertise, and he mentors elite coaches worldwide. Last but not least, he consults for Olympic bodies and sports industry. Olympics here in Italy are about to start, Winter Olympics, so just a quick reference to that. This is what a training program looks like for our level 4 tours and above. Let me remind you that the rating system for our tours ranges between 1 and 5. Expeditions are in the 4 and 5 spectrum range. The program gives you a clear daily plan week by week, 1 to 12, from week 1 to week 12. It is easy to print and hang on your fridge door as a daily reminder at breakfast. So once you find those training plans, it's easy to put them on the fridge to start with. Then you need to try to stick to them training daily. Now, what if you would like to use an e-bike on our expeditions? At this point, I'm happy to have Maria Elena tell you more about this. Maria Elena?
I am here. Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, you're welcome.
We thought it would also be helpful to discuss how e-bikes might influence or be used, because that is the hot topic in any conversation about cycling, I think, at this point. So first thing we like to say about e-bikes, no matter which trip you're doing, is it does not replace the need to train. And it is, in fact, something we used to not bring them on expeditions. E-bikes do change the logistics in terms of transport, storage, pace, et cetera, et cetera. All of our tours are now still designed at the pace of a non-e-bike, of a muscle bike, as they call them in Italy, an analog bike, whatever you want to call it. But we obviously understand the benefits of having e-bikes. And so we are starting to allow e-bikes on expeditions now. They are the lighter e-bikes, are e-road bikes, and some of our e-hybrid bikes. And we have found that with good battery management, they certainly are a great addition, like they are to anybody who's riding and learning about how to extend your riding time maybe, or how to make things more accessible for some folks who maybe didn't think they could do it. So the point being, we do have them available. You need to check on the actual trip to see which types are available depending on where we are. And it is a whole new world out there in the world of e-bikes, and we try and make it work as much as we can. We're a little bit behind time, so I'm going to move on. For our featured folks, I will have, let me see here. Oh, Tim and Susan, if you guys can turn your video on and unmute yourselves. You guys can join us and chat a little bit with us. We would like to introduce Tim and Susan Canny. They just joined us last year on an expedition. And Susan has done a couple of expeditions, one in South America, I believe, and then last year in the UK when they did the Lay Jog trip from Land's End to John O'Groats. And Tim, on the other hand, has decided to rack up the expedition notches on his hat. And I think you've done 4 or 5 now at this point. So we have a good, yeah, something like that. So we have a good perspective. And so my first question to you two is, what first attracted you? And you may have different answers, so you can both answer separately. What first attracted you to the expedition tour style?
So I'm trying to bike all the countries in Europe, and this is a way to do that. And especially last year, taking 2 of them, and the one this year, gets me across lots of different countries, lots of different cultures, time in Europe, time in South America. I think it's fantastic. Love it.
Great.
And I'm along for the ride. So I've done 3 with Tim, and he's done 1 without me, and he'll do 1 this summer without me. And like I said, they are wonderful. And I want to say Sonia and Andrea did a really good job of explaining them and expressing exactly what happens on the tour. So for me, it's longer than a classic ride. So generally, you know, it's more than 13 days, and the riding is a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I think they're good.
Excellent. So my next question, I'm because we're trying to squeeze in also a little bit of information on the next tour. I'll limit it to just maybe 3 or 4 questions. But my next one is, what do you wish you would have known going into your trips? So what kinds of questions do you think people should be thinking about when considering an expedition?
Being prepared, absolutely. It's going to rain. It's going to be sunny. There'll be hot days. There'll be cold days. Be prepared. And that said, also don't overpack, because I can say last year I was in Europe for 3 months with about a week of clothes. And so there was lots of little laundry stops, but having too much gear, too much luggage, that's no fun to drag that around. So
Susan, do you have any other?
You know, I would also agree, be prepared. I mean, there's always anxiety when you're signing up for one of these trips, and there's 2 forms of anxiety. One is, you know, the am I strong enough anxiety that goes with this, and am I prepared from a packing perspective. And yeah, I say that those kind of work themselves out. But the other thing you have to realize is that, you know, you're going to be riding for 3 or 4 weeks or a month, and so you need to be comfortable with being away from home for that long, or, you know, being committed to ride for that length of time. And so those are some things to think about.
And being on a bike for that long.
Being on a bike for that long.
Yeah, in training, people often worry about the elevation and the distance, but that equates into actually more time in the saddle. And so we remind people that the best training and preparation is actually to take that time in the saddle. Yes. And make sure that's, in fact, the training programs we do have, especially for the upper level trips, do, if you look at them, you know, it does say, you know, go on a 4-hour ride today and then do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in terms of preparing, what I'll say I wasn't worried about is knowing the route and being lost, and, you know, what happens if I have a bike problem. I can say the arrows are fantastic. Love following those. That's sort of autopilot for me. And I know that then somebody is out ahead of me that's already ridden the road and has pointed out potholes and features like that, or the road's closed. And the van is always around within 10 or 15 minutes, I've found, if I have a serious bike issue that I can't deal with.
Yeah. I was going to say, don't set your expectation on 10 or 15 minutes, because if you're covering 80 miles or 85 miles that day, they may take a little while to get back to you. But yeah, I never worried about being taken care of. I always felt like I would be supported if I got hurt, if I had a really bad bike mechanical, that the guides would be fun and interesting. And so that has always been the case. So I don't worry about that piece of it.
What do you guys enjoy most about this? What motivates you? And it might be about, maybe it's a similar question to what attracts you, but I'm just curious, now that you've done a few, what do you guys see as the enjoyment factor? Especially you, Tim, who keep coming back for more.
So definitely the guides, they're local, they have experience. I learn about their lives and their countries. I think that's a very direct connect. And the adventure, I would say, to me it was a positive, maybe it's a negative, but we were in South America and there was a protest on one of the bridges. The bridge is closed, we can't cross it. So the river was shallow enough. We said, you know what, let's go that way. We all walked through the water and they drove the van through the water and we got on with our bike ride. I thought that's very memorable and very fun.
Right. And that's back to the guides, really taking care of you. And, the other thing is you meet really interesting people, and you meet people who are adventure seekers, because if you're going to do this type of trip, you have an adventurous soul and you seek that out. And so you meet like-minded people, and, sometimes you continue to go on other trips with them. And we've had that opportunity and privilege to have that happen.
That's great. Is there a question you wish I would have asked you, or anything else you want to add to this?
I'm going to reinforce your time in the saddle, because that to me is always, that's the one I'm most afraid of. I bring my own saddle. I try and ride a lot before I go, but the expectation is you will be spending a lot of time in the saddle if you're doing greater distances, and also day after day after day.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do often, many of our travelers do bring their own saddle on any of our trips, because we certainly understand if you're attached to that saddle, it doesn't take up that much space in your luggage to take it with you. And so we do recommend people do that. Tim, is there anything else that you wish we would have asked?
No, but I would say adaptability. Expeditions are not for everybody. Susan made me go by myself last year.
She knows herself.
But to me, it's fun. And okay, I can take a cold day or a rainy day or a hot sunny day. You deal with what it throws at you, because the benefit is going through all of these different countries. This is quite a list for the upcoming one. We'll be biking along coastlines. We go through valleys and lakes. We go up into some mountains. To me, that's fantastic. That's fun.
Great. Well, thank you so much. If anybody has more questions for Tim and Susan, you can put them in the chat, and I will move on. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon, I hope. So Tim and Susan are here local in Fort Collins. They do have a little bit of the home court advantage. In that they get to see us quite a bit. And we do love that. We have a number of other folks, I think, on the call right now who are also locals. So it's always nice to see you guys. Thanks, you guys.
All right. Thanks.
All right. So I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about what our 2026 expedition looks like. It is our expedition from the Baltic in Tallinn to the Adriatic in Venice. It fulfills many of the qualities of what we see of our expeditions. It's cross-continental. It is actually, the full trip is 29 days. We have also made stages out of it. They are split into 2 stages of 15 days. We took the inspiration of the 20th anniversary of our trip that did St. Petersburg to Istanbul, but we have been trained well by my father, and we often like to use various themes and historic important routes that were important in Europe or in other parts of the world to actually help design our trip. So this particular trip actually follows 2 important historical routes. It follows the amber route that used to be part of the amber trade from the Baltics to the Adriatic and to southern Europe. And it also follows the Via Romea Strata, which was more of a religious pilgrimage and was one of the biggest pilgrimages from the Baltics to Rome, of course, through Venice. So we combined those and used those as inspiration to actually design this particular route. The thing that is wonderful about using that kind of a theme to support your design is you're going to go through interesting places because the merchants and the history and the culture that were shaped by these kinds of routes are seen every day. And when you bike across them, no matter how long has passed, you see pieces of that, whether it's in the landscapes, in the architecture, or in this case, in the border crossings. So a little bit more specifics about this particular trip. And because we're running a little late on time, we'll remind you in probably our follow-up email on the specific links of this tour. But the tour, each tour has its own page. This is the QR code to the direct link to the longer full trip. It starts in Tallinn, Estonia, and it ends in Venice. I'm going to show you more of a map. Many of us who are cyclists would prefer. Here are the nuts and bolts of the actual information that you can find on each description. The full tour is almost 3,000 kilometers with almost 17,000 meters of gain, 55,000 feet of gain. A lot of that is actually in the second. So you'll notice the first stage is actually less climbing because we're going through the coastal areas of the Baltics and then heading south. And then the second stage is when we're going over the Alps and through Austria into Venice. And so that's obviously where there's going to be a little bit more climbing. Excuse me. So that first stage goes from Tallinn to Warsaw. It's 15 days, and it is an extraordinary introduction, I think, to the Baltics and into Poland. It actually will hit 4 capital cities. I think that's super special. We start in Tallinn. Then we head through the Gulf of Riga and down through the Parno coastline. And this was an important trade route during even now, but historically it was. So there's lots of different architecture and history until we get to the capital of Latvia in Riga. And then you continue south to Vilnius, Lithuania, which is, of course, this entire region is a crossroads of the East and West. And the history there has shaped towns and small villages. We can for all of you who have bike toured, I think we all have a passion. The reason we love to travel by bike is because you don't just see the highlights of the capital cities, you see everything in between. One of the memories my sister was reminding me of, she has guided and actually did more of the previous expedition between St. Petersburg and Istanbul than I had done. And she loved seeing the signs, the road signs that changed from one country to the next. And that is something that obviously you would never see in a car, but on a bike, you get to really, really explore those pieces. And then you get to Vilnius, Lithuania, and then you continue to head south and you cross into Poland, and we finish that first stage in Warsaw, Poland. The second stage is from Warsaw to Venice. So you don't hit as many capital cities at this point, but you do start to head south into some of the most also diverse landscapes. We are following river valleys and trade routes that were, shaped originally from the coastline up in the North Baltics and then down in the river valleys as we get into more Central Europe. So that is how we've designed the trip. You still, of course, have to climb a little bit, hence the increased elevation. But then you start to get into southern Poland and Czech Republic and Austria. You're going to go through the rolling hills. Czech Republic has some beautiful greenways. And we do spend 2 nights, I believe, in Vienna. We arrive in Vienna as our rest during this particular trip. And then we head south towards Venice. I can't touch on all the highlights. This was not meant to be an extensive overview of the trip. Just a preview of what this tour is going to look like in 2026. And that's because I think we wanted to make sure we had time for Q&A. Carol who has been organizing those topics, there you are.
Yeah, hey, let me make sure. Can you see me? Is my camera on?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Please go ahead and drop any questions you have in the chat. But Emmy, while we're waiting for more questions from folks, we've had 2 questions I'd love for you to address, and Sonia and Andrea can definitely step in as well. Be great to get everyone's input. We had a question about navigation because we didn't go over the chalk arrows quite so much, but Anne was curious how we manage people riding at different paces on expedition tours. Do we split the group into different abilities? And so I responded and let her know, no, we mark through with chalk arrows, but if you or Andrea or Sonia want to talk about that more, that'd be great.
I can talk a little bit more about that. So on most of our expeditions and even our classic and bike and boat tours, we use chalk arrows on the road, which is a very analog way of navigating, but it has worked for over 30 years and seems to continue to work well. We also give you Ride with GPS tracks. GPS tracks you can download to your Garmin or use the Ride with GPS app that we use. And we have found that in most destinations that we go to in these particular trips, riding at your own pace is the best option. So we don't try and keep the groups together. Instead, we have a tour leader, depending on the number of tour leaders on the tour, riding with the group, or and then the van is obviously also driving the route. And then between the size of the group and the natural stops, people don't really ever feel alone, but you also get to not feel like you have to ride with a certain pace or a certain group. We've never had safety or security concerns in the places we do go where that would be an issue. We would ride as a group. And we have found it's the best way to give people the freedom, like I said, what biking does for you. Andrea, I don't know if you want to add anything.
And
or Sonia?
comment on the experience too, with the Ride with GPS tracks.
Yeah, what I can add to that is that we always, as tour leaders, we try to give you cities where you can stop for lunch or coffee breaks and stuff like that. So even when you ride at your own pace, oftentimes you end up at the same places for stops, and you'll get there. The other ones will be a little faster, but they'll, enjoy a coffee with you and then leave a little bit earlier. But along the way, you meet each other here and there, except for those that really want to, bike on their own and not see anybody. Some people enjoy being alone, so they'll stay at the back or go faster. But most of the time, you'll see each other on the road.
And one additional detail, if I may, that comes from another expedition I've led. The example comes from another expedition I've led from Bari to Rome and then from Rome to Turin. On those occasions, entering Rome following arrows can be quite challenging. So in such scenarios, we decide to regroup and enter Rome as a group. But those are exceptions, let's say.
Yeah, and speaking of, that's a great segue actually into the next question that we had. Lisa was interested in you all talking about safety, especially related to international affairs, but also road safety. The roads that we travel, low volume rural or busier routes, and what can you comment on the driver expectations of cyclists?
I can start with that, and then maybe you guys can talk a little bit about the roads that, in your experience, we've been on. But so we've the places we go, we have never seen international affairs actually affecting our trips, even given the current environment, which is strange. But even last year, the sense was people were still really excited to see travelers. Everyone's excited to see travelers. They really understand that 95% of the world in this environment, in these particular places, are absolutely safe, and there's really not impending concerns or immediate issues happening in any of the places that we go. And then in terms of road safety, we definitely design our routes to be on rural roads, smaller roads. Cars often we've found in other parts of the world, and this is compared to the US, are more used to having cyclists on the route and the roads. And so there's generally, they find more them to be more respectful. I don't know if Andrea or Sonia, you wanted to comment on that.
No, I think you covered well, pretty much the subject.
I agree.
Let's see, I think that covers the main questions that we had asked. I was curious to have you all talk about just what kind of things can go wrong. I mean, we've talked about being adaptable and being flexible, and Emmy, you said early on, well, we don't always ride every mile of the route in advance of the tour. So giving people a sense of that, like, well, what can go wrong, like, and what kind of a flexibility they might need. Can you share more about insights on that?
I can intro it, but I'll let Andrea and Sonia pick one. Weather is always one, and now you could call that wrong or just thinking about what plan B is. And the joke in our organization is usually that plan B when it's weather is plan A with a raincoat or with, better gear. But sometimes last year, I believe, actually, we had snow over one of our snow passes or one of the passes. And so we had to take a train. And, the good news is we have an entire organization working on those logistics as needed. During the day, I would say navigation often is probably the thing that maybe individually could be the hardest, but we have managed that, I think, quite well over our many years of experience and many, many miles. Our arrows do, even though maybe somebody hasn't done this route 3 or 4 months ago, it does mean somebody is out there right now in front of you. And so sometimes there is road construction, and so it has to change, but that's the beauty of how we run our arrows, is that somebody is out there and can change it. It might mean that you all collect at one point and have to ride as a group. That does happen in certain cases. But generally that's all managed by the tour leaders and doesn't tend to be too disruptive, I would say. It might disrupt part of the day. Andrea and Sonia, you guys are more on the ground than I am. What are the kinds of examples of, what are the bloopers? Andrea, do you want to go first?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure I understood the question.
Well, it's good then. That means it's always great. Well,
what kinds of troubleshooting have you had to do on expedition trips that maybe are not similar to our classic trips?
Sonia, anything comes to mind? I'm trying to collect all the thoughts that come up, but
well, also in the interest of time, because we're almost at 1 o'clock and I want to respect everybody's hour, I think we'll take you off the hook, Andrea, and I'm going to just wrap things up here. You're welcome to email us any questions you have. any of the emails that I have sent out to you folks, you can use, oh, what about SAG rides if someone gets sick? What are options? We can take some time to answer that question. The
Yeah,
support
I can answer
vehicle,
that quickly.
yeah, go ahead.
There is a support vehicle there, and we definitely have times when people get in it, and the van is there. Even if there's a day that you're not feeling up to riding, you can ride in the van. You might take a little longer. It's not like the van will drop you directly at the destination, but generally it is trying to get to the next hotel to drop luggage, and you get to see the route. So there's definitely SAG options every day. And then if it's multiple days and you're in an urban area, maybe there's an easier option like a train. There's lots of different options.
And managing hygiene on tour, we learned a lot during COVID, and it's always on a case-by-case basis. So if you're very, very ill and you need to stay in one location for a while, the tour leaders work with you to figure out what your options are, and it's amazing what we can get done on tour. So I'd say we have the ability to take care of you as best as we possibly can. So just real quick before we wrap up, we have a local event on February 25th here in Fort Collins. We call it our Winter Social. You can RSVP with that QR code. I'll also include this information on our wrap-up email to you. And then we have a spring ride happening Sunday, April 26th of 2026 down in Longmont, and we'll be sending out more information about that. So if you're curious about Experience Plus and haven't had a chance to really get to know us, we'd love to have you join us. Another great way to get to know us and stay in touch all year is to receive our weekly news and announcements. Again, that QR code takes you to the sign up page, and I'll share this slide deck with everybody as well so that you can have access to all these codes. And with that, please check out our tours online, experienceplus.com. You can email your questions to info@experienceplus.com. Apologize for being a couple minutes over, but thank you so much for joining us. And I would personally love to go to Australia to host a local event. So Sonia will have to talk more about that. I'm on it.
We do have a strong group of Australian travelers who've been with us, so maybe we should think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But Andrea and Sonia, thank you so much for your time today and for joining us. Everybody for attending. We're just really excited about the interest in expedition tours, and we hope we see you out there soon. Thanks,
Tim
everybody.
and Susan, thank you guys as well.
Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
absolutely.